Okay, right. Let me just put on my video. So there is a human face to me talking, right? If you have any challenge listening to me, just you can raise your hand. Before we get started, I just wanted to cover a few, important points about uh, the operations of this webinar. So we will be going through this topic. I probably cover it in less than 30 minutes. I wanted to reserve some time to quickly show you a demo of how things operate in how things are going to operate in the DPDPA world, and how it looks when you get a request, a data access request, right? And then we can take Q&A. Before I get started, that's my name and designation on the slide, right? But a small disclaimer before I get started. DPDPA is a new law, right? So I just would like to clarify that I am not a lawyer. Okay, neither do I have any legal expertise. But as a team, we have done a good enough study on the law and understood its the impact related to the data angle, which I'll try to cover in this, right? So if your questions are very legal specific, I'll park them and we'll probably figure out a way to reply to you. But I will do my best to reply to all your questions, right? Primarily, we will discuss the solution angle on how you can make this Microsoft 365 data ready for DPDPA. Right? So, the one last thing is, if you think of questions, right? Do not wait till the end. Do not wait for me to finish the speech and then you put your questions out. Write them as we go, and I will answer them as we come to the Q&A part. And one more thing is, I have planned for 4 polls in this, so it would be great. I mean, if you can just participate wholeheartedly. Do not resist from voting. Share your thoughts. Share whatever is happening with you. This is just to understand your space, because there's no other way for us to learn from you, right? So it'll be great if you can participate in those polls. Put 100% effort there. So the question which we will be answering, we will try to answer rather, is can you retain, protect, and quickly locate, produce personal data when a regulator, auditor, or data principal asks? This is going to be a reality starting May 2027. Exactly, we have 308 days before the law's rubber hits the road, right? And so, how ready are we is what we will try to see in this webinar. Okay, so let's So in 40 minutes or less, we will cover why DPDP is not the compliance problem you think it is, right? The enforcement clock, and why 2026 is a year that matters. In fact, this webinar may be just a little too late, maybe. We'll see. The 5 operational gaps hiding in your Microsoft 365 estate. These are the gaps which we will highlight and try to look at the solutions from that angle. That's point number 4. And I'll run you through a live demo, especially focusing on the part where we can detect pi. This is going to be very important angle for answering the questions and the queries which come from the principal or the regulator. So let's look at the problem potentially you think you've solved, right? So before that, we will launch a poll, right, to understand where your organization stands today. There's no right or wrong answer. Just give your honest feedback, and it will just help us understand. Because, to be very brutally honest, DPDPA applies to all sizes of businesses. There is no business, no vertical which is exempted from the law. So, if you're a manufacturing house or if you're a BFSI, doesn't matter. It just means that you have to deal with one more uh, compliance now, right? So let's understand where you stand on the DPDPA's readiness, right? I'm launching this poll. There are 4 options. You haven't started work on this. You have worked on the policies and notices, but not on the operational side. You're actively building on the data governance, and you're ready. There are 4 options. Let me just go to the poll section and launch it out. Just a second. Yeah, here they are. So I'm starting the poll. We'll give it about 60 seconds before I stop it. It started. I can't make out from. Yeah, it started. You can choose one option. Okay, good. Please do not refrain from voting. This is not the political scenario. This is just to understand the readiness of the audience. Some more votes can come, as I can see. It may not be it may not be completely right or completely wrong. Just what is your gut feel or what is your perception about your organization? This is not going to be held against you. This is just to understand. Okay. Few more seconds, but still everybody hasn't voted. Okay. 5 more seconds. All right. I'll just stop the poll. So as you can see, I have published the results. We do not have a single vote on where audit ready, which means there is work to be done amongst people at least who voted or didn't vote. The most voted was not really started. In a way, one and four are the same. You haven't started work and you're confident you're not audit ready. But there is some work done. 23% have voted that they worked on the second section, which is policies and notices, and 29% are working on the data governance, which is very good. It's good to hear some early work being done here, right? I'll just come back to the presentation. Just allow me switch time. Yeah. So that was about DPDPA readiness. In summary, it appears that a very few are ready, right? Maybe half. 50% are amongst the ones who voted. Amongst the ones who didn't vote, I don't know. Right? So now let's talk about the misconception. Right? You've probably done the visible part, which is putting a DPO officer in place, getting vendor assessments, consent notices. It's something like, the basic part of working on an ISO or a SOC, right? Privacy policies are updated, those kind of things, right? But when the real question is not, is our policy compliant? As you can see here, right? The challenge will come when we need to find and produce data to defend your position, right? And this can happen. And I'll also share an example with you in one or two slides later, is how this can actually set us back, even though we may feel we are ready. So the challenge will come from policy compliance when you move to operational compliance. And that is where most organizations will be quietly exposed. So while we work on the second and third part, we need to be clear about there's another part which, I'll talk about now, right? So we can look at the DPDPA regulations or the law, and there are more than 100 clauses, right? In this, if you go through all of them, you can classify all of them into three broad categories. One is the policy and governance, which defines how you should collect data, how you should collect consent, all those kind of things, right? Uh, you know, who should be in charge, a DPO should be there. Those are the first things. The second thing is the actual configurations of the security settings and the privacy. Now, one and two typically happen on your primary platforms. What are primary platforms? If you're a bank, it's core banking solution and all the tools which apps, the phone apps, right? The interfaces, those kind of things. Whatever systems you're using to do your business, and Microsoft 365 is a big part of that, right? a lot of data moves on Microsoft 365 backbone in your operations, right? If it's not Microsoft, it's another platform like Google or anything else. But essentially, there are business systems which you have which drive your business, like I mentioned, core banking or a mutual fund backend system or any of such business applications. Plus, there are these communication and workplace productivity tools which you would be using, right? Like Microsoft, Google, or whatever. And all these one and two, whatever is described in one and two, and the sub clauses thereof, are typically done on on the primary platforms. And this requires effort. This requires work, right? It's essentially documentation, policy definition, training, and configurations. This is part one and part two, right? The third part is where actually uh, you may not be able to do with only the primary platform, which is the expectation of DPDPA for data resilience, record keeping, and lifecycle management, right? So this requires a different solution capability, which has to be mapped into your primary platform, and this is what we will talk about, here. So the readiness gap. I mean, if you look at the third box which we spoke about, right? Uh, the thing is, and we let's talk about Microsoft 365 because that is going to carry a lot of your information related to DPDPA. Now you might ask, where does email carry PI? Do you know how much of KYC is done on email or transactions are done on email or chat, right? So, and then these are documents are stored in your drives, which may get mapped to SharePoint or OneDrive. A lot of communication within the teams happen on Teams. So your Microsoft 365 backbone or the workplace productivity tool is carrying information which is under the DPDPA radar. That is definitive, right? And the large mailboxes or the native tools or the in-place archives, they were built for productivity and storage. They had no idea that they have to, you know, give you tools for discovering pi or for making it tamper proof or producing a defensible audit trail across years, not last 15 days and last 1 month, right? And managing records after the employee has left. Example, I mean, here's a standard example, right? I'm working in a company, and using my email, chat, and drive, etc. I do a lot of KYC, or I work with a lot of customers, gather their PAN, Aadhaar, and all those kind of documents, right? And I resign and I change over, somebody else comes in. My data, which is carrying PI, is still under the DPDPA radar. Okay, it cannot escape that for life. Okay, so when regulators and when the data principal asks for any information or asks for access or asks for right to forget, you cannot ignore that angle, right? So here is a problem. You might be using this cloud, but it alone cannot be the solution to the DPDPA readiness, and that's the gap. And that is the gap we need to address, right? Now we'll do run another poll. Okay. uh, this before I just talk about why this 2026 is very critical, right? It'll be like the Y2K or the COVID era, but this year is very critical for DPDPA. But before that, let us, even though you may not be completely ready, like we saw in the first poll, it's all right, right? But in May, the law goes live. In that scenario, if a data principal, which is essentially the customer, your customer who has given you the data to keep, right, or a partner or anything, vendor, requests come in for showing some data or to, confirm where all the personal information, etc., is stored. How soon can you respond to that? Within hours, within days, within weeks, or you don't know? Let's hear it from you, right? I'm just going to launch this poll. Same request. Please do not be stingy about your vote. There you go. I've launched. You can choose one. You can choose one. You may be using any other tool. It's okay, right? But you should be able to respond to. And I'll share some samples of what is expected when a data request might come in. There is a sample in this in one of the slides, I think the next or the next one after that, in which we I have shown you what kind of requests can come in. But let's first hear from you, right? I'm going to wait a little longer here. Uh, I see some more people to vote. Interesting pattern. Come on, guys. More guys have joined the webinar, but less people are voting. I see a hand. Okay, you've raised your hand, but I really cannot, I will not be able to hear you. So if there's anything you would like to say, please put it in the Q&A panel. I'll look at it. Okay. I'm going to stop the poll and publish the result. All right. So as you can see, the most voted is within days with some manual effort, which makes sense because you really have no option. If a request comes in, you have to reply, but it will take some time, right? 22% have voted within hours, which is very nice, which means your readiness is good. That means you're able to locate information. I will, in fact, request you to study the sample very carefully to see whether that really matches the capability that you have, right? Weeks is 11% and we don't know is 27%. So essentially, most people are voting that it will take long, or they don't know the time it will take, which is expected because you're supposed to go through tons and tons of data and answer a request about a single person, right, or two people, and that too information which carries pi. So this is not surprising. Let's just go back to the deck. Just a second. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I think one slide got, yeah, sorry. So the clock is already running. We are approaching November 26, where your consent manager framework should be live. Soft enforcement phase ends, right? Which means that in November 25, the rules were notified and you were supposed to be partially ready by 26, but by May 27, specifically, I think 17th of May, there's a full enforcement is expected with a real penalty exposure. And this is not a small penalty, right? It's a huge penalty. So it's important to really, uh, kind of get a good feel about where we stand on this. And I will try to give you that in this webinar as a takeaway. Just making sure I'm on time. Yeah. So the technical build, the discovery, retention automation, all of these things which require you to be ready for a request takes about 9 to 12 months, right? So working back from 2027, the build has to have started in April, May, March, April, May of 2026. And I'm just hoping that you have done that work already, right? This is not a law that we can ignore, okay? So but this is especially true for certain regulated industries. There's a dichotomy or kind of a conflict, right? There's a tension which you should be aware of. DPDPA core principle says that don't keep personal data longer than necessary, more so especially after the customer has asked for it to be wiped out, right? Whereas a regulatory obligation says keep it for 8, 10, 12, or whatever number of years, depending on what regulator you are under. If it's insurance, it's a little longer. Banks are about 5 to 7 years, and SEBI is about 8 years plus, right? Now, so this data needs to be kept for tax and corporate law, for the regulatory laws, and any legal hold. Let's say there's a litigation going on. You cannot delete data at that time because it may be required in the court of law. So you have a conflict between deleting and keeping, and this is a real conflict, right? There may not be an easy answer to this. So you need a very active policy driven data management approach here, which we will try to kind of look at today, right? How do we balance these two demands which completely conflict with each other, right? Here's a scenario, and whatever vote you gave to the second poll, right? Run it through this. This is something very typical which might happen from May onwards, right? A data principal files an access request. Data principal is basically the customer who has given you the data to work with. So you are the fiduciary, the data fiduciary. So the clock starts the moment it is filed, right? The data may be spread across mailboxes, Teams channels, SharePoint sites, drives, on-prem. It could be in a lot of places, right? And you know your own operations to get a grip of what I'm saying, right? Now, what the team is going to do is they will search each system by hand because they are supposed to give a very comprehensive list to the data principal, saying that your data, whatever you shared with us, is there in these 30 places or 30 documents, emails, chats, whatever, right? So 30, 35, 100, 120, whatever that number is, right? And you cannot be lax about this, right? And there has to be an audit trail to prove what was done, how that landed up there. If a KYC was done, it has to be then there has to be a trail showing that this PAN card arrived in this drive, in this document, and this is how it came. This is the time trail, right? Now, if you multiply this, if you start getting 2 to 3 requests a week, forget day, right? And this is where the problem starts, right? I mean, how can we deliver on such a request within a few hours, minutes is really what we need to look at. And that is the gap which DPDPA tries to expose. Right? This is that operational gap, not a policy gap. You've done it, right? But it in a way in which it is not suitable, or it may be very risky in case you get a request. Now, using this scenario, think back on your poll and for yourself. I don't need to know. Just confirm that yes, your readiness is to deliver in a few hours. And remember, the spy could be anywhere, right? So what are the, let's look at now the hidden gaps in the Microsoft 365 estate. Please note here, this is not, uh, you know, this is not a reflection of the Microsoft 365 cloud capability. It's just that from a DPDPA perspective, it alone will not do the job, right? And that is what we want to highlight here so that you are aware, right? Okay, third poll. And there are just this and there's one more. So wake up, right? Or have a cup of coffee. We just need to know this. I think I can guess the answer, but it will be great if you can tell us your business communication and records. Where do they live? Which platform carries it the most? Microsoft, Google, both, or a mix, right? There could be more options, but you're getting the idea, right? If it's none of those two, then you could just choose the D option. That will give us an answer. That will give us a good picture. So I'm switching over to the poll. This is the third poll of the day. Started it. Okay, we'll wait about 60 seconds. As I thought, that's exactly the way it's going. But still, it's better to know rather than to just guess. This will uh, help even when I'm speaking to you. This answer to this will help me speak about the relevant stuff. Some more votes. We'll wait another 10-15 seconds. Okay. Yes, that's fine. Right. So I'm just going to publish the results. So as you can see, and as I had thought, Microsoft 365 will be the most popular. It is, and it has got the maximum votes. So which means a bulk of your communication records are carried, and this unstructured workplace productivity data is carried there, which in a way augments your structured systems, right? Your core banking or your notification platforms. This sits above it to handle exceptions and direct communication with the customer. Right? Google is very low, and both is at 15%, and the mix of on-prem or a mix is about 10%. Right? It kind of validates what we have, right? Let's go back to the deck and let's understand the landscape. Now, before I share the gaps, uh, just to clarify for you as to where your data sits, the personal data of a customer, vendor, partner, it starts with M365 because that's where the communication and all starts, or they fill a form or whatever, right? So, email, Teams, SharePoint, Drive for sure in some capacity carrying personal information, but also your business applications and any historical data which you may have, PST files, zip files of documents, and all those may be also carrying personal information, right? And that is real. You cannot ignore that. So to be DPDPA ready, right? Locate, govern, retain, retrieve, and proof control across all of it, right? Is what you need to do. Starting with M365, where most of it lives, but you cannot ignore the other aspects of it. We are covering M365 in this webinar because there's a limited scope, but you have to look at all your business systems where Pi could reside. See, one of the ways is minimize, right? You make sure that the systems which capture and store personal information are limited to your core systems and maybe only email. You don't allow it to happen through any other channel. So minimization is one way to restrict the spread, but the sprawl is there. If not, at least it's beyond one system. So we need a way to be able to make sure that you're able to find information across all these, uh, sources or stores. So the first gap is the personal data visibility gap, which means PAN, Aadhaar, address, name, phone number. This is all a list of personal information which is documented in DPDPA, and you should be able to locate that when a principal asks for it, or even if you want to do an audit, internal audit, or a DPDPA auditor might come and say, "Show me," right? So the question is, can you locate and extract this across the entire estate? It could be M365 legacy archives or any other historical data, right? Now, here is where I'm going to talk about our solution a bit, right? And how it works. I will come to that after this section. But essentially, our objective when we designed, when we're designing our solution is how we can centralize this ability to search. So you are doing whatever you're doing across all your systems, but what we are trying to do is make sure that your search is in one place. If I need to look for pi of Ravi Kathuria, right, I should just do a search in that form. Show me all the information of Ravi Kathuria, wherever it is, whether it is OneDrive, SharePoint, or it came from on-prem, it doesn't matter, right? I should be able to, and it will give me a consolidated list saying, here is where the pi is located. Now you take whatever action you want to take. That is what we are trying to do. And that is how we are trying to address the uh, personal data visibility gap. This is gap number one. Just a second, sorry. Gap two, this when the data principal request comes in, you cannot respond. Actually, you cannot respond in months and weeks. It should be uh, hours and maybe 1 or 2 days, right? So the regulatory timelines, whatever they are, right, whether you can do that confidently, which means the right to access. When the right to access is asked, you have to give copies of the data which you have, so that the principal is aware that these 30 documents are there in which their personal information is stored. So this whole law is about protecting the citizens' personal information. As you know, before this law, and even GDPR is a similar concept, right? So the whole idea is to prevent the spread and misuse of the personal information. So they're making the company who's gathering the personal information responsible for it. So at any point in time, the principal can ask to access, can ask for a correction or erasure. Very important, what is called right to forget. Okay, or they can withdraw consent. So you have to stop processing. Now what we are trying to do is, while we don't control your business system sprawl, right, because that is there, you cannot get rid of a core banking and your Microsoft 365 and 100 other tools you might be using. But what we can do is give you a map. We say, boss, we found the personal information in these 20-30 sources. Now you can go back to the personal to your primary platform and do the cleanup or the correction. At least you need to be able to get that list, right? Otherwise, how you go to find it? You cannot go about looking in every user's mailbox. Three people might have interacted with the customer, or 10 people might have interacted with the customer, and they all may be carrying some file. But you need to say, okay, in all my archives, 30 mails are carrying Ravi Kathuria's spy. That, if you can get that answer, which are the 30 mails, then you got your problem solved, right? And that is what we want to try to do. And this is what we are trying to build. We have built into our solution, right? Let's move ahead to gap three, the breach investigation gap. So if your data gets breached, right, can you scope it and prove due diligence? And that has to be done fast, right? So let's say there's some ransomware attack or some, security incident in your company. Can you identify which data and which individuals are impacted? You'll have to get that data, and you'll have to actually inform them as well. So whatever I described for gap 2 can be applied in gap 3, because while the incident will happen on a primary platform, the archive is untouched. So we are talking about a independent archiving layer which packs onto Microsoft or Google or your on-prem environment, keeps a copy of all the data as it is generated, something in real time, something, you know, uh, incremental once a day, and it makes sure that this copy is safe with multi-layered security, all that. Now, anything might happen here, but this will give me a single source of truth view that where all is this particular user's personal information, which content pieces carry it, okay, dates, etc., everything. So you can then use that to inform the customer, inform the auditor, or whatever is your obligation. Because the reason why you hired the DPO is to handle the DPDPA obligations, right? So we will help you to bridge that gap which you will otherwise be struggling to find across the data sources. So this is the third one. The fourth one. Now here is the conflict one which I spoke about earlier. DPDPA says minimize, which means don't keep everything, keep minimal information so you can locate and clean it easily. But the regulator says otherwise. Your business policy might say otherwise. From a continuity perspective, from an audit perspective, from a legal perspective, you cannot really minimize, to be honest. Okay, because you minimize and then a suit comes to your way and you don't have the data to prove, right? So there is a very important element of storing and minimizing. You are, and it's a real conflict, to be honest, and this is not something which I want to simplify for you, right? But what we are trying to do is uh, that independent layer with certain specific privacy controls, right? We which will ensure that the data remains, but it is private at the same time. Is something which will help you to manage both of these conflicting demands very well. Is something which we are trying to do. We have also done a lot of work on that. So whether it's life cycle management, which means that uh, okay, the customer is with you for 3 years. What happens after 3 years? Okay, he said right to forget, right? But that is from a DPDPA perspective. From a taxation and RBI or SEBI perspective, you cannot forget. So how do we keep that data in a way in which it is not so easy to access by anybody except in certain scenarios? And then also the PI is kept private. So those are some of the solutions which we have worked on, which break this conflict in a neat way. The last gap which I'm talking about is the governance and accountability gap. So when a customer is with you for 3 to 5 to 10 years, right, there is data being collected, but the audit requirement is that you should be able to provide a trail to get that understanding that how this data came, when it came, through what sources it came, and then the ability to work with that from a GRC perspective, right? So this gap you will not get if the data is sprawled out and it has no control on deletion, or it doesn't retain data beyond a specific period, then you will not get a full view ever. So what we need to do is, again, the same way how Vaultastic is closing this gap is, it gives you one backbone. You may have 20,000 systems at one end, but we'll give you one backbone to control your governance and accountability, because everything is in one place. The whole trail is with you. The audits are there with you. So you can use that to control the, uh, this particular angle, the gap, right? So actually, if you, the next slide describes how we do that, right? But this is the last poll which I want to run before I come to that, uh, to explain to you how those, whichever what I spoke about in a diagrammatic form, I'll show you how independent layer will help you resolve these five gaps in a smooth and very manageable way, right? So first, let's do this last poll of the webinar. Right? Am I good on time? Yes. Okay. Which of these worries you the most? You can here choose multiple. This is a multi-choice question. Finding personal data scattered across systems. I described the challenges with that. Responding to requests in time, and the time given is not much. You have to report breaches within 72 hours. This conflict of retain versus delete, and the governance. Which of these is most worrisome for you? You can choose multiple, right? So I'm going to just switch to the poll and start that last poll for you. We'll wait 60 seconds for the votes to come in. I was able to serve you coffee across the webinar. So unfortunately, this medium is such that only I can talk and I cannot have a cup of tea or coffee with you. Yes, votes are coming in, but not enough. I'll wait some. Since this is the last poll, we'll give it a few more seconds extra just to see. And yes, I think some questions have also arrived. I'll come to that. I just have a couple of more slides to finish my presentation. Whatever questions you have, please put in the Q&A poll. All right, I'm publishing these results. I don't think they'll vary much more, even if more people vote. There you go. Maximum votes have gone to the first option, and all the others are almost a tie, which means that the biggest challenge you see is to find the PII scattered across various data sources, right? And approximately 40% each have voted to the other four, which is timely response, breach investigation, retain versus delete conflict. So these are what is worrying you guys. Okay, that's what I understand. So let's go back to the presentation. Just a second. So this is how it works. I'm just getting into the solutioning mode, just 2, 3 slides to kind of cover the key points. What we will be doing is, and I'll show you this. I plan to show you a actual demo within a few minutes. I will not do a deep dive demo, but I'll show you how we capture data, not just from Microsoft 365, from multiple other sources, how we store it and manage that storage, which is then an air gapped storage between the source system and the archive, give you tools to govern it, right? And search, discover, and respond. So when a request comes in, you will use a discovery, right? And when you have to govern the data, when customers are leaving or all that, you can use the governance tools. So we do not replace Microsoft 365. Please do not take that away from this. This is an add-on. It sits besides it and it closes the part 3 gap, which you are actually left open with. This is the most important message for you here, right? What's the payoff? So you get a DPDPA ready framework, you get stronger GRC compliance, right? You lower your cost because you have less sprawl. You don't have to worry about keeping the data on the primary platform for all 10, 15 years. That can be preserved in the archive. So you have the luxury of taking steps to keep your primary platform lean because you know that the data is anyway present with me, especially ex-employees or data which is very old. So it will lower your overall cost and we keep data in a very cost-effective way, right? And it will give you that information continuity. Please note, I'm not using the word business continuity. This is not about server uptime and those kind of things. This is about making sure that the information which is collected, which you're generating and collecting from the customer, and which we are keeping a copy of with us in the Vaultastic platform, that is continuously available through to you, no matter what happens with the customer. So that information continuity is a very important part of our deliverable with when you attach Vaultastic to your primary platforms, right? DPDPA we spoke about in this webinar, but Vaultastic is not built just for DPDPA compliance, right? The way we built it, and we've been selling the solution for 7, 8 years now. That time DPDPA was not there, right? But the same platform with minor adjustments has proven to be invaluable when to help businesses comply with DPDPA. We're having very meaningful conversations, even as I'm talking to you regarding this application, right? Again, I'm saying we are not a law firm, we are not lawyers, but we will help you with part 3 of the DPDPA needs, which is the resilience of data and the quick discovery and the ability to produce it on demand, right? So what we have worked on, I will show you in the demo, right? So this if you look at this particular slide, the broader value which you bring to the table goes beyond DPDPA readiness. It's one archive with many needs, whether it is compliance with your regulatory framework, whether it is business continuity or business intelligence, where you can pull out data and give it to an AI tool, right? In fact, we ourselves are doing a lot of work on AI enabling the archive, right? The second most important thing is residency and sovereignty. This is one big part of DPDPA, but it's now become a norm in almost all regulatory requirements, right? And the compliance automation workflows, whether that is a policy driven automation which is required to make things run as per the regulatory requirements. We've proven this at scale. Hundreds of organizations are using Vaultastic, and now they will be now automatically also DPDPA enabled, DPDPA ready, right? The same organization. So we would like you to go through the same, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to the demo section. How much time do I have? Yes, I am on time. I'll need about 30 seconds to just log in and get everything set up. I'm going to leave this screen here and then I will share that screen. Just give me a second while I switch to my demo setup and just log in and everything. Just give me a second. You will not see what I'm doing as of now until I share this part, but I'll just prefer to just get it ready to keep it smooth for you. Meanwhile, I would suggest that you log your questions in, because if within 5 minutes from now, I'll be taking up Q&A so that we can stop at 5 sharp, right? Okay, getting there. Just also keeping all the screens open so that there is minimal switch, you know, when I'm showing you. I would rather do that early and then show you a smoother demo. Okay, perfect. Okay. Since I'm loading all the screens, I just need those few extra seconds. The whole idea is to smoothen it for you. Almost there. I'll be just meanwhile, please keep sharing your questions. So once we come to the Q&A, I'll not be asking you. I'll have all the questions ready. I'll just need another 10-15 seconds and I'll be with you. Okay. There's two more apps to open, and I'll be there with you. I did forget to mention one thing, which I'll mention it now when I'm showing you the demo. Yeah, there you go. Okay, next one is the audit trails. And of course, the pie detection. I want to show you that as well. Right. Okay, I'm ready. I'm just switching my screen share. Just a second. So we'll see all these five things within 4 to 5 minutes. I'm going to run through it. If you need a detailed look at it, we can have an offline session, right? So let me just change my screen share so that I can come to this. And now I'm going to share my window. Share. Okay. So let's go here, right? This is very quickly the login panel, which every customer gets. I've logged in as a super admin. I'm not going to dwell on this part because this is actually a little deeper in the admin panel and all. Let's look at what we discussed, right? What is the way in which you can get data into Vaultastic? So what you do is you set up first the connectors. So this is the first app I'm showing you, which is your connectors. Now you can set up connectors from Microsoft, Google, IMAP servers, cloud storages, on-prem storage, and lot of flexibility in each of those. Like in Microsoft, you have four options: OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint, and that, right? In each of them, you can define your connectors. Of course, not to worry, our team will guide you. But essentially, Vaultastic hooks up with Microsoft using APIs, not just Microsoft, but other applications also. And very rarely do we have to install anything on the other end. It's except for some on-prem environment. So you will do configurations as shown here. The keys, etc., will be given, and these connectors will be, you know, done. This is typically done once and just maintained, right? Once this is done, the which means that now Vaultastic has the capacity to talk to your systems, whatever they may be. We are very flexible, and we have a lot of connectors in place. the the next thing that you need to do step by step, if I'm saying, you provision a Vaultastic account, connect it to your systems, whatever they are, and then you define your job. This is a data upload panel. I'll just show you a very quick view of this. So here you define jobs, right? Which whole idea is, what all do you need to upload from which end on the left side, and where should it go on the right side, and how often. So let's run through one very quickly, right? This is just a sample request. So I'm just giving some random. Just a second. I'm going to move my window out of here. Okay. So then he's going to ask me, where is the data coming from? If you remember, we have built those connectors. It's not showing Google and IMAP because those connectors are not set up, right? So let's assume Microsoft is set up, and we move next, right? And I say that I want to get, I can do email, OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. So for each data type and each source, I just have to define one job and run it recurringly. Let's look at, let's say email, okay? And then I will give a CSV, right? I'll just kind of, uh, you know, take any CSV. Let's look at this one, okay? I say next, where it gives a list of users whose emails will be migrated. After for these three users, take the data from Microsoft 365 and place them in the Vaultastic Active Store. I'm not going to get into what all this is, but this is the definition, right? We'll talk about it maybe in a deeper dive session. Then I define my schedule. Do I want to do it only once? Maybe it's a one-off upload of historical data, or daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. We can define that, right? If I do it daily, then this will happen on a daily basis. For emails, you don't really have to do this. Emails is a real-time ingestion from any platform. As the user sends and receives mail, data is ingested into Vaultastic. But a daily thing is done for OneDrive, SharePoint, chat, and on-prem sources, right? So I will define daily, next, save, and run these jobs. And we saw that it will show you a list of the jobs which are scheduled, running, completed, and which are also ongoing. So this gives you the full visibility on data upload. So this is step two. Step one, connect. Step two, get the data into Vaultastic. This is ongoing. Fresh data, old data, everything comes through this one simple uh, view, right? The application. The third and the most important thing now comes the discovery. Data is coming in, months and years have gone by, right? And you get some request. Now is where the rubber hits the road. So we have attached Vaultastic to your systems. We have made sure the data is collected. It is kept safe, right? With multi-layer security, and this runs on AWS, just to let you know, right? So what we will do is we will look at how you will do a discovery. Uh, Now here is to answer your question about that. I showed you a sample, right, on how that you will, if you get a data access request from data principal, what will you do? So you will just come here. So a request has come at 9 a.m. in the morning. Not a problem. You log into Vaultastic, take this discovery application, okay, and you say Ravi Katuria request. I don't know why this name keeps coming to me, probably an old friend of mine, but just for the sake of making it easier. DA request regarding DPDPA. Okay. And I will say next. And the request was to search across the things. Currently in this application, you have to do it in each data type, right? Which also we will be making it look across all the data types at once. But when I say email, it will search emails across the entire archive of every user. It will not differentiate. It will, because you don't know who has communicated with this customer, where the file resides, you don't know. So I'm saying search through all the email, okay, and I want to filter it because I have got specific request, right? And then here I will provide my requests, right? And I will also show you how we will handle pi in this. There is a way to do that, but here I will give my parameters, okay, and I will, let's say Ravi, or email ID is Ravi at com, and I will just for now to keep it demo quick, I'll move ahead and I'll say that whenever whatever you information you find, let's say you find 30 emails with the data which I'm asking for, right, as per the filter, uh, copy it to a Vaultastic store or copy it to an AWS S3 bucket or give it to me on a drive or just copy it to my mailbox. I'm the admin, put it in the mailbox and finish it off. That also I can do, right? So it will, I'm a Microsoft user and I'll just give a folder name. I'll say, give me this in Ravi's content. Okay. And I can move ahead, right? And I will submit the job. Now this guy's job is to go looking all over wherever the emails are and find the information you requested, which includes personal information. And it will give you those 20, 30, 50, 100 emails where this resides and whoever may have sent or received the emails. So this is how quickly you can do. And you have to just do this for the chat and documents for now. And we will soon be giving a capability where it will search across data types as well. So this is how easy it becomes. See, I'm not touching Microsoft on-prem, nothing Google. I'm saying run a query across the data which is archived from there. So it's a copy anyways, right? And it's a complete copy. It's a 100% copy. So an ex-employee, a recent employee, doesn't matter. It will find the information where this is there. And that list is what you have to give to the data principal saying, here is where this information resides. What do you want me to do? Right? And then you can take the necessary action. All those are also part of Vaultastic, which I don't think we have enough time to show you that, right? Now comes the interesting part. There is a very two things which I want to show you before I end the demo. We still have time. Oh, I have exceeded, but it's okay. If you're okay, then I will just take another 2 minutes. This is one requirement which is coming up from the regulator. I don't know about DPDPA, but regulators are saying that you need to keep the mail server logs from Microsoft or Google, right? So you are transacting mails, but you need to keep the logs. So if you see this is just a sample what we have got. And this is a kind of logs. So all the mails transacted by your users on Microsoft and Google, the logs of those have to be brought and kept here. That's it. Your mails are there, it's fine. But the actual logs, this is just an easy view of it, but the real log is here in this JSON file. So this will be captured daily from the Microsoft or Google platform and kept here for you to see, right? Just quickly coming to the Pi section. So what this Pi scanner, we have a Pi scanner. What it will do is it will scan the emails and documents and report just like this. Let's have a look at this one. This is an email scan report for personal information of a particular mailbox, right? What it has found is it has found these numbers which pertain to driving license, bank details, employee ID, PAN number, Aadhaar number in these particular emails. These are sample emails, of course, but if you submitted real data, and it has also found out the name of the person and all, right? So this is one quick way in which this will scan and tell you where Pi resides, and you can give this list to the principal. You do a similar thing for documents because in KYC scenario you'll be taking images, PDFs. So our scanner will work across all data types, most of them, doc files and all, and it will show you like in this image there was an Aadhaar number which was passed on. So you can actually then show this to the customer and say, hey, we found this particular Aadhaar number, right? And you can even do a specific scan with a number, so it will find those particular documents and show you that I found 10 documents where this user's Aadhaar number, Ravi's Aadhaar number is there. Okay, so this is how the Pi scanner works, right? I'm now I'll have to run because it's 5. I want to check your questions as well. One last thing to show you is all the activity in Vaultastic is tracked in an audit log, which is kept as long as you are our customer, which is multiple years, it could be decades as well, right? This particular audit trail will keep track of every action done by your team, legal team, IT team, whoever logs into Vaultastic. What did they do? Did they search? Did they download? Did they upload anything? What queries they ran? What Pi scans they ran? Everything is tracked so that you can now share this very confidently with any auditor or any person who has asked, right? So this is a quick demo. I am going to switch back now to my webinar because I have exceeded my time, unfortunately, and I will hop to your questions, right? Okay. So a data principal access request, the question here is what is referred to a data principal access request? So a data principal, well, just a second, let me just come back, stop sharing. Okay. A data principal access request is a principal is the person who deals with your business, their customer, vendor, partner. So when the principal has a right to ask you that, hey, I shared all this with you, where is it? Give me a list of what all you have. It's like a loan department giving you a list of documents which they have kept for your home loan, for example, right? So that is what is a data principal access request. Okay, I'm from an IP, we don't, but we do have data. So you don't collect personal data, but you have data about inventions. So is DPDPA applicable to us? This question I would rather not answer. It's a good question, but I would rather not answer this. But I would say that your inventions are done by a certain human, right? And that human could be your employee. Employee's personal data also comes under DPDPA, right? So you will be keeping any organization, however small or however big, will be carrying some pie with them of employees, of customers, where the principal can request saying, show me my pie. So whether what you're carrying is your uh, business IP, but you cannot, I'm sure you'll be carrying some pie even at least of employees, right? So this is my take, but I would say this requires an answer from a more a legal expert, right? Kindly share the recording. Yes, we'll be sharing some snippets and of this, and also the poll data for you to refer to. Another call to, yeah, thank you. How this is relevant to manufacturing? So like I said, organizations of any sector, manufacturing, NBFCs, BFSI, or any sector, they come under pipe because they're dealing with employees, customers, partners, vendors. So in your onboarding process, you're asking for all these KYC documents, right? That has to be preserved well, and that has to be maintained as per the DPDP regulations. So any guy who's giving you their personal information has a right to its protection. This is what the law is all about. So it applies to every company, every sector, any size. And by the way, the penalty is the same for everybody. There is no such thing as 250 crores for a large company and 2 crores for the small company. The DPDP is a very stringent law. It should not be taken lightly, right? So this is something very important for all of us to consider. Yes, okay. We have executed NDA with all our suppliers, customers, and also employees. This is good, but it is not enough. NDA won't be enough, right? Because that just says that you will not disclose their personal information to a third party. But the fact that you are carrying the personal information has to be provable. It has to be defensible. When the principal or the auditor comes to you and says, show me Ravi's data, you cannot at that time say, I don't have it or I cannot find it, right? So an NDA is fine, but it's not enough. Okay, I think we have gone way past our time. Uh, it's like 5:05. I'll just probably wait a few 30 seconds more to see if there's any other question coming from you guys. You guys have been a wonderful audience, right? Uh, if you don't think of any questions now, you can write to me offline. You have my email ID because you would have received the invite from my email ID. I would be happy to talk to you, right? If you would like a deeper dive session into how the solution works, I would be happy to take you through that. If you just want to chat about any thoughts which you have, I'm happy to do that as well. No obligations, nothing. It's just going to be a friendly chat with you. So please feel free to reach out to me. You can do that on LinkedIn as well. You will find me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect with you, right? So you don't have to ask me the question now. We can talk later as well, and I would be very happy to do that. So with that, I would like to take your leave. I would like to thank you very much for spending this quality time with me here, listening to me, understanding our point of view. I will send snippets to you. You need not have taken any notes, right? And I also try to share some FAQs kind of a structure with you. maybe not in one mail, but in a few mails, so that you can digest the information easily. But my urge to you before you leave the platform is, uh, get ready for it. It's coming, right? With that, have a good day and a good evening, all of you. Thank you so much again for joining this, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.